Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am very pleased to have with me Mario Wissa. And let me tell you about Mario. He is a social communication expert with a passion for helping individuals and organizations improve their communication skills. As a researcher, author, and public speaker, he's dedicated over 17 years to studying interpersonal, and group communication. He has authored 3 books on the subject and has trained extensively, gaining valuable insights from a diverse culture and intercultural communication. So today's theme is going to be, what is communication and why is it important? Please join me in welcoming my guest, Mario Wissa. Mario, you know I love to talk about this subject. Part of what I teach as well, communication and being a leader. And leadership is all about, you gain that confidence from being courageous and public speaking, having great communication skills. It's all about that. But before we get into the meat of all of this, I ask 2 simple questions. Sometimes you prove me wrong, but first question, what part of the world, where do you live? Where do you call home?
Oh, okay. That was unanticipated. All right. I traveled a lot, obviously. Currently, I reside in Seattle, Washington, even though I travel around a lot. But that's where most of the time where I stay, in Seattle, Washington. And I lived in Seattle since 2009, except for 5 years when I traveled Asia between 2017 and 2022.
Oh, wow.
Where do I call home? Where do I call home? Home for me, honestly, is where I can find myself and spend time, quality time with myself, where I can think, meditate, reflect, be creative, and produce something that would benefit other people. So wherever I go, whether I was in Asia or in Africa or in the US, like being with myself, wholly present, that's what I call home. I know that's out of the box answer, but that's how I feel.
That's a perfect answer.
I guess I'm a nomad.
I'm sure, though, that there's a lot of people out there that say, yes, I agree. I agree with that. So I gave a lot about what you're doing today and your focus and your mission, but I love for my guests to share about the journey, the paths that took you to where you are, and the pivots and challenges you had, to just demonstrate that it wasn't a straight line, that, you know, there were twists and turns, but you overcame challenges and it made you a better person and really informed who you are and what you are doing.
Vicki, I'm being very frank, being really honest. And I want to tell you that I am 40 plus. So with this question, I can go on for some time to tell you how much time you want to give me for this, like a minute or 2, or how much time?
You could take a few minutes yeah, I understand that. I'm 67 and I know there are a lot of people there. So you can just, you know, lead us to that moment where you say, this is what I'm meant to do.
Yes. Okay, got you. That kind of narrowed down in some ways. So as you mentioned, that I was born and raised in Egypt in early 80s. And as a teenager, 17 years of age, I have had the privilege to actually come to the US and simply to study English. That's 25 years ago. And throughout the whole, for 17 years, where I lived in the US between 2000 and 2017, I've held more than 12 different jobs and positions, 3 corporate jobs, a business of my own, served in the military. And in a way, you can call it, I'm an experience junkie. I love to experience things. I want to have it all. And that's actually what I did. I always like research, ask questions. I interview people often wherever I go. And truth to be told, I did realize from really young age, Vicki, really young age, as young as probably 10 or 11 years old, I noticed that something was missing. What I mean by that is amongst my family, relationship dynamics, their communication style, how they responded and reacted and behaved to the things that come up between them or in life. Can you imagine? I'm a young kid. I see how they behave, and part of me tells me there is a better way to do this. And I don't know what that means, frankly. So one of the very first steps was 20 years ago when I read this book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. That's a very well-known book by Joseph Murphy. It's a palm-sized book, easy read, maybe a day or two. And obviously at the beginning, it took me like a week to read it. But this was one book that I read really half a dozen times throughout my life so far. And one of the biggest nuggets that I captured from this book was the first 7 years of our lives determines about 90% of our future. How we behave, how we think, how we respond. Basically, we're programmed in that way. Hence, compassion is very important. I'm not going to get into compassion for now. I'm just putting this out there. Until a couple of years after I read this book, I came across communication. At the time, I was still researching. I studied anthropology, psychology, accounting, business, IT. You can imagine. I even studied dinosaur, for God's sake. I'm trying to figure out what is missing until I came across communication. And I have to tell you, the biggest light bulb came on for me. This is it. This is it for me. And I feel like this could be it for everyone else if they really pay attention to it. Communication is like air. It's everywhere. Hence, I am dedicating my entire life, which I don't know how much time I have left, but I'm dedicating my entire life for the purpose to spread the word about the power of communication and how if we use it mindfully, it can help us to nourish, to grow, to glow, to go places we never imagined to. And if we communicate and use it mindlessly, it could be destructive and harmful. So when I reached the point, I realized that this is really my it. I've heard many, many years ago when people say, they stand on a stage and they say, when you find your it, there is no turning back. I'm like, what does that mean? Now I know what that means. Once we find something that sets our heart on fire, there's no turning back. No amount of money that can make you change your mind about what you do. I hope that's short enough.
Yeah. And it kind of answered the next question I was going to ask you was, what is your definition of communication? So I, think you wrapped
Okay.
that.
I'm gonna start. I'm actually standing because I get super excited about this topic. So when I start moving around a little bit, like for real, that's why I like to speak and stand. The word communication, it creates this vibration in my being. It reminds me that I'm grateful that I exist. Kid you not. So I would like to share with you a privilege of being a researcher in a very humble and honorable way. A great privilege of being a researcher that you get to the point based on your experiences, your depth of understanding, you start to coin your own definitions of what communication is. Therefore, what I'm going to share with you is my one and only definition. You'll find it only with Mario Wissa, but anyone can borrow it. And here we go. The way I see communication is, it is a non-stop, voluntary, and involuntary process of exchanging information, knowledge, energy, and on a quantum level, vibration.
That's
so
awesome.
Would you like me to say it again, or that's enough? Kind of not so long.
You can do it again. So
Okay. So communication is a non-stop, voluntary, and involuntary process of exchanging information, knowledge, energy, and vibration. Basically, we are a non-stop communicating being, whether we want. Our existence is communication. We here on this podcast, this session right now, you're listening, and other listeners might be listening in the future. They're communicating their existence by just being there.
So how is communication impacting our relationships? And I think, you probably have some stories if that was it in when you were so young,
Yes.
and especially thinking about the fact that at 7 years old, we start to really imprint who we're going to be. Talk about that, the communication impact on our relationships.
Due to my beyond passion for my communication, and how I'm building my life around two aspects, yoga and communication. But for now, we're only going to talk about communication. I realized, and it was actually pointed out to me just honestly like a couple months ago, that I actually became the to-go-to guy in my families, in my relationships. I learned that active listening is really powerful. Hence, I practice that often. Conflict resolution is really important. How we approach what comes up for us. Are we reacting or responding? Are we making the issue more convoluted, or are we trying to entangle it and find a solution? I really do believe in a win-win scenario. That's always possible. I really believe in that. With mindful communication, assertiveness is really possible. And the other thing that I want to share with you, which is somewhat a bit personal, I was previously married, and I was married for about 4 years. And obviously, I'm no longer married. I don't have any kids of my own. I am super single, woohoo, happy. And about a year or so after my divorce, as I was doing my communication research and taking some classes at University of Washington, as we call it, UW, I do remember vividly the days where I took some classes, and the information that I have gone through and absorbed through the session impacted me in such a way that I actually went home and cried for hours in my bed. Why? Because the one thought crossed my mind was, what if I had known this information before? My decisions would be different. My life will be different. My choices will be different. My emotions, responses will be different. That's how profound communication had impact on me. It doesn't only like change like minds and perception. It alters life and future and path.
So that really kind of talks to us about why communication is important. That the theme of this, I mean, as you were saying, it impacts our relationships. And if we're in, at home or business, building relationships is so key. And so many conflicts come from miscommunication or misinterpretation of our communication. Even the speed of our communication, as you're describing your definition, you did it slowly so we could think about it, absorb it. So often people just run through what they're trying to say and walk away from you, and you think, huh?
What just happened? What just happened?
Yes, exactly. It was the drive-by communication.
Yeah.
So why is communication so important to our success and our confidence?
So first, to cover really quick, for me personally, I see confidence. It blossoms naturally from being ourselves. That's just how I see it. It can be more to it than that. For now, that's how I see it. Now, why communication is not only important, it's crucial. And That's why I say communication is like air, it's everywhere, truly. So let me cover three to answer the question. I have to cover the three most important types of communication, and everything else falls under that.
Mm-hmm.
The most common type of communication when we talk about relationships or anything in our life, we always talk about interpersonal communication.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have high interpersonal skills, interpersonal communication skills, 5 years, 10 years, when they ask for a job, a resume or post. Interpersonal, basically 101, like what you and I are having right now, even though it's also digital communication, but it's also interpersonal, one-on-one. The second type that's popular in communication is group communication, which is three or more. 300, 3,000, 3 million. Group communication, underneath it, you will find organizational communication, hierarchy communication, strategic communication, the list goes on and on. Now, the third one is my favorite, and where I'm spending more than 50% of my research is intrapersonal communication. How we converse with ourselves. From my research, I found out a huge percentage of us not aware of this inner voice, not aware that we're having conversation with ourselves, and the ones that are aware of it are lost in it, don't know what to do with it. Some people in some religions and some cultures, some people call this intra-personal voice, interpersonal communication. That's actually the voice of God. That's like telling you what to do, Hence, meditation is really important. And I'm not going to dive into meditation. I'm just dropping this for now. So being aware of our intra-personal communication that is going on non-stop, 24/7, even in our sleep, it comes up as dreams. Example right now, Vicki, as you're listening to me and you're kind of like nodding your head, agreeing with the things I'm saying, there's a dialogue that's happening in your own head, like, oh, I like that he said that. I agree that. I wonder if I should ask him more about this. Or there's always this voice going on. If we don't become aware of it, it can drag us everywhere. But if we become like aware of it and calm it down, it can guide us like nothing else.
I agree. And I think that's really is a nice segue to the next question. And that's really in relationship to our career development and communication. And for me, I always had that inner voice and was I always attribute it to the fact that I came from a large family. And so to get away from the craziness of being in a large family, I would go off, take walks in the woods at my grandmother's farm. And then you were there with your thoughts. And so later in life, I found that I call it my gut, my smarter brain, guided me to make better decisions in my career and my leadership style. So talk to us about career development and communication.
Absolutely. One of my favorite, I don't know what you call it. I don't like to use the word advice so much. One of my favorite inputs I've ever heard was invest in yourself more than you invest in your job.
So good.
Work,
So good.
right? Work on yourself more than you work on your job, because working on one's self pays dividends all the rest of our lives. So when it comes to work and career, I discovered from my research why people do what they do in terms of career. I was able to put it in 4 categories. Category number 1, why people do what they do in terms of a job and career. Number 1, to pay the bills, to put food on the table, to pay the rent, go from one day to another, buy the necessities, paycheck to paycheck, and just that's what they want to do. Nothing wrong, nothing right with any of these options, just different mindsets. And we all can shift the different mindsets from one time to another. Category number 2, basically people are following their parents' footsteps. My dad was a lawyer, I became a lawyer. My mom was like a business owner or a doctor, I took over the business, or I became a doctor. We're just basically following the family lineage and path. category number 3, and it's kind of funny. Some people do not know why they're doing what they're doing, which is okay. I was there before.
I fell into that job.
I was there before. Like when I asked someone, like, "Hey, why did you choose this career? Why do you have this job?" And they look at you like deer staring at the headlight. I'm like, I have never ever thought about this before. So, moving to 4th category, which this category that really changed my life just about 10 years ago, are the ones who love what they do so much that money almost means nothing to them. And they are very stable financially and they're very comfortable, yet they do not care for the money, but they love what they do. Where they go, they show up. When you give them a task, they don't do 100%, they do 110%. What you didn't ask them to do 110%, they just love it so much. When we find what sparks our energy, our heart, there's no turning back. And the ultimate step to actually begin to understand what that means is to cultivate quality time with oneself. To spend time with myself, spending 8 hours at work or 10 hours at work, let's spend 15, 20 minutes a day with myself. Literally look in the mirror and ask myself, like, how's it going? Do you like how things are going? Would you like to change anything? Why what the boss said yesterday bothered you so much? Why didn't you speak what's in your heart? What's holding you back? Why are you afraid to make the jump, take the leap and try something different? Having a conversation with oneself, either looking in the mirror without looking in the mirror, is vital. We become more valuable in our job the more we invest in our own self. We feel more emotionally stable. We feel more balanced. We're more satisfied with the steps that we're taking. And if we are not satisfied or content by conversing with ourselves, we can make the change if we choose to.
Awesome.
So, why is it so important that we learn how to have healthy communications with others as well as ourselves? Because we know that some of the reasons why we have self-sabotage and imposter syndrome is the things that we communicate, those intrapersonal that you were talking about. So share with us why healthy communications with others and self is so very important.
So let me start by something really important I really reflect on often. The primary reason why children, when they're like a year or 2 old, they crawl and they try to get up and walk on their 2 feet. They try hundreds of times, if not thousands of times. They get up, try and walk and fall, try and get up, walk and fall, and eventually succeed. And they start walking like mom and dad and their siblings. Honestly, I really like this. This is very simple. Monkey see, monkey do. We are programmed from really young age. Basically, our inner voice from young age was not our inner voice. It was, I don't want to say imposed on us, but it was absorbed from the environment, basically learning by osmosis. Now, I discovered something that I find very powerful for me, and it's really mind-altering idea, that the way we think and the way we speak and the way we act, oh boy, sorry, the camera did that.
That's okay. That was like impactful, important moment there, everybody. Listen to that.
Yeah, that was awesome. I should have
His
let
camera
it. That was
was
awesome.
like, this is something you should listen to. Awesome.
That was awesome. Thank you for taking this easy. So the way we think, the way we speak, and the way we behave, it literally creates the future us. The next day, the way, the mindset that I wake up with this morning and the things I'm going to tell myself, I'm going to have like a kick-ass day, the best day I've ever had so far. And the steps I'm going to take, go for a walk, hit the gym, hydrate, go for another walk in the middle of the day, and in the evening, do something to take care of myself, like a nice bath or something. This is all preparing me for tomorrow. And tomorrow I'm going to do better. And the day after, I'm going to do better. So those 3 factors, I know we all familiar with really popular saying, we become what we think most of the time. Okay? We become what we think about most of the time.
Yeah.
For me, obviously, I feel like thoughts come before emotions. Some people might argue that, but it's true. I see thoughts is like everything. Thoughts, then emotions. How I think about something, it gives me the inner response or feeling or emotion. So again, how we think, how we speak to ourselves and other people, and how we behave and act creates our future us. And I made a TikTok on that for a few seconds and it kind of like blew up. People become as how we treat them.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I see the best in you, if I see the light in you, if I see that you are doing your very best every single day, every single moment, and if you learn better, you will do better, just like me. So looking at the healthy side, the bright side, to actually inspire and uplift one another, to actually look at the things that we can do instead of you are not doing this. Why did you do that? That's not good.
Yeah.
Why are you repeating this? If you focus on this, you keep, what's the word I'm looking for? Manifesting it, re-manifesting it
Yeah.
over and
Right.
over and over. But to use our thoughts and words and actions intentionally, mindfully, and in empowering way for ourselves and others, what a world would that be?
Yeah. I often teach, you could have the best words, the most powerful words, but it's how you deliver those words that is so impactful. It's the tone that you have. And that's why whenever we choose our words that we put in written form on post responses to chats and things like that, that's where that misinterpretation can come and relationships can be damaged. Always say, say it out loud first before you write it down. I used to tell my daughters when they were in high school, before you put anything in a post, think, if I put that on a bus that went up and down our freeway, how would it be received?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I really like that because I go on so many podcasts as a guest. And yesterday, I was asked this very interesting question. What about all these online comments, this mean comments, and or maybe even name calling, or
Yeah.
for one, most people who do this online, it's not easy for them to do in person. They feel kind of like shame or shy or.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, which is actually disheartening for me, to be very frank, and it ties into our topic of intrapersonal
Mm-hmm.
communication. When we are on our phone and we comment on a video or we comment on an image or comment on another comment, we are actually communicating with ourselves. No one else is around.
Yeah.
So when we put something out there that's mean, make a mean comment or say something that's not nice online, we are actually telling this to ourselves, to our future self.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big responsibility. Who is aware of
Yeah.
that? That's really, really powerful to be aware of that. When no one is around, whatever we comment, whatever we think, however we behave, it's all about us.
Mm-hmm.
No one
Wow.
else is around.
So, what are some vital concepts about group communications? And social media is a group communication, but blogs, emails that you send, whatnot.
Absolutely. I did mention at the beginning, this applies to all three types of communication and pretty much in all
Right.
situations. We can
Mm-hmm.
improve any situation honestly by just being present and actively listening to observe and
Mm-hmm.
absorb, to not react. So sometimes to be witness of what is happening is really vital. I don't have to get too involved. I can choose to get involved, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to get involved. I can just be witness. Like I'm walking down the street and a bird flies over me. They just notice me walking. That's it. So imagine yourself a bird. A situation is happening and you're just floating over a situation. This is really important because it gives us this I guess we could call it bird eye view, point of view, looking for it's, I didn't connect it that way before. That's interesting.
Bird's eye view.
Bird's eye view, basically, yes.
Awesome.
Number two is to actually be as empathetic and compassionate as possible with what is going on. Why do I say this? Whether we're dealing with a boss, a manager, a leader, a CEO, a president, well, guess what? I am dealing with another human being. And I know with the culture and society, it shows us the differences between us. Yet I have to tell you, one of the most common thing that brings us together, again, this is coming from yoga and meditation, is our breath. We all breathing the same air. One. Two, most human beings, after a minute or two of no breathing, you would give up anything to be able to breathe again. What I'm trying to nail down here and really, really hard is we are humans interacting with each other. If we approach any group communication at work, online, professional, personal, at home, as I'm dealing with another human, oh my gosh, you see him as a human, I see you as a human. That brings it to the third point. I truly believe that every single human being is doing his best or her best. So let's say I'm having a conversation with you and you get emotional and you get angry and you raise your voice. I go like, wow, it's okay. You're being emotional right now. You're being a human. Well, today, your turn. Tomorrow might be my turn. I be kind, compassionate, patient with you now. Well, I'm fueling tomorrow. Hopefully you can do the same for me tomorrow. And fourth one, which is really important when it comes, especially professionally, something that really helped me to advance in my career. Honestly, every single job, every single position I've held, I've advanced quickly and rapidly because I put my heart into it. And once I'm done, I move on with my job. I get another job. Relationship between you and your boss. Well, let me rephrase this. The relationship between me and my boss. I have always been aware of the power of communication for a long time. And I realized that actually my part of my job is to actually empower my boss. You might think, oh, the boss is supposed to lead me, supposed to guide me. They know. Well, guess what? They're just human like me. They have family. They struggle with, like, I don't know, traffic or maybe financial, or his or her wife said something or whatever. It's just something happens in their life. To actually even empower them. If they're late, it's okay. If there's something needs to be done and I have downtime, I take the time and make things happen. I do things before my boss even asks for it because I simply want to. Take the initiative because I just want to. Hence, they see you doing a job above your pay grade. They go like, I think you should get paid more. I do even ask for a raise. How powerful is that?
Yeah. So good. Well, time has flown by and we could talk and talk and talk, but it's time for me to share the slide of the contact information. If you've enjoyed what Mario has had to say today and think, oh, I'd like to connect with him and learn some more, then of course I have the slide that you can get a screenshot for. I will read the information, but if you do not have the ability to write things down right now, maybe you're driving or don't have a paper and pencil handy, then go ahead and understand that it will be in my YouTube channel. So please do subscribe to that, or my findyourleadershipconfidence.com website. So the website is, and he made it easy for you. He has his name for everything. So Mario Wissa, that's MarioWissa.com, MarioWissa.com. Facebook is searching for his name as well. LinkedIn is Mario-Wissa- and a bunch of numbers, but you can just search for him by his name there. Instagram is ECU_Mario Wissa, and TikTok is @Mario H. Wissa. And I'm going to turn it over to Mario. He's going to talk about his call to action today, what you can find on his website, resources, links, as well as what he puts out there on social media. And as you see, he's got a couple books there, a few books there. So he'll talk about a little bit about those books. Back to you.
Okay, well, I'll try to make this concise and straightforward because I get stoked to talk about the things I'm doing and what I've published so far. So there are 3 books that I've published so far. For the time being, only one of them is actually available in the US, which is the first one, Empowering Communication Unleashed. The subtitle is The Most Powerful Voice You Will Ever Hear Is Your Own. The other 2 books, they are being published and translated mostly in the Middle East and Africa. I will bring them to the US hopefully in the next 90 days. The second book is 180 Degree You in 180 Days for Personal, Professional. Basically, 1-day read for about 2 pages for about 180 days to alter your perception in a way that makes your life more satisfying and fulfilling for yourself. And book number 3, which is based on high demand for the topic, eventually published the book. The title is The Listener, Learning by Osmosis. Universe is the True University. Now, done with telling you about the books, I'm also super excited to tell you something new that we actually posted on our website, as you mentioned, mariowissa.com. I have put together an assessment that you can take on for free on my website. When you go on mariowissa.com and you go under the tab of Get Empowered, you will find a communication personality style assessment, CPS, basically 15 different questions that you will answer. You have different options as 5 multiple choice answers. And you take the 15 questions online. It's free. You get the results immediately. And after that, you have the option again on my website to book a 30-minute free session 101 to kind of help you whatever you're going through in terms of your job, your career, communication coaching or leadership coaching. And also if you want to work on some relationships in terms of communication, I'm open.
Mario, thank you so much for being such a great guest. Had so much fun talking with you today, having a great conversation about communication and how important it is. So thanks for being a great guest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for making this happen.
You're welcome. As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.